Afternoon, everyone. I'm Justin Sayer from Birdon. I'm the Commercial Manager for Birdon's Dredging and Environment Division and former Project Manager for Birdon at Bulga Open Cut. With me I've got Glencore's Andrew Green, who is an experienced mining superintendent and is currently the Dredging Superintendent for Bulga Coal Management and subsequently Birdon's client for the Bulga Open Cut Dredging Services Project, which is the case study that Andrew and I will be discussing with you today. This case study highlights one of Australia's largest tailings relocation projects, which will enable access to approximately 60 million tonnes of previously inaccessible coal seams and extend the life of the Bulga Open Cut mine by over 10 years. We were able to work together with Glencore through early tender involvement and ultimately supply two state-of-the-art tailor-made dredging systems that are fully integrated into Glencore's pumping and monitoring systems and facilitate the movement of over 17 million cubic metres of tailings to date. Today we'll of course be talking about some of the key project scope items, operating parameters and performance metrics. However, we also wanted to shine a spotlight on some critical challenges that go hand in hand with undertaking a dredging job of this size and nature on a mine site and how we have collectively been able to overcome these challenges. So Andrew, we'll jump in. To start with, can we talk about just what the scope of the project was and what were the critical roles that Birdon and Glencore were to play in the project?
Yeah, thanks Justin for the introduction. As Justin indicated, Bulga was looking to maximise its reserves from the lease that it had in place, and that's approximately 69 million tonnes. So that gave Bulga an additional 10 years of mining opportunities. It keeps people employed for another 10 years and allows Bulga to operate responsibly within the community and give back to the community for another 10 years. So the scope of works was definitely to recover that extra coal tonnes. And so there were significant studies conducted with engineering consultants to really fine-tune what that dredging project or opportunity looked like. And so that involved two dredges that were procured through Birdon. They were able to procure that with their relationship with Royal IHC to get those dredges in a timely manner to be able to undertake this project in a swift manner. For those of you that have seen the Birdon booth, the dredging operation is not sitting in the back of the lease. It's well and truly integrated within the mining operation. You've got 600 and 800 tonne diggers sitting on the embankment where these dredges are mooring from. And so it's quite a complex undertaking for this dredging operation.
Yep, thanks for that insight. Over the course of the project, it's been established that dredging success is contingent on hydraulic readiness. Can you elaborate on this along with any new or innovative ideas that have been implemented within the overall system that have contributed to ensuring that this hydraulic readiness success is achieved?
Yeah, so I alluded to the fact that Glencore teamed up with an engineering consultant to develop this dredging program, but also the tailings relocation system that transports this tailings 10 kilometres from its location to the destination. Via 5 pumping stations. These two dredges are operating at 650 litres a second, transporting approximately 20% solids through that pipeline. So that's a significant volume that's being pushed out each year. You know, it's about 6 million cubes a year. And so there was a lot of design and engineering firepower that went into the design of this system. You know, to transport tailings that's containing 20% solids at 600 litres a second, you need to make sure that that tailings isn't dropping out of suspension. It's continuing to move through the pipeline and not get bogged up in the slurry pumps and the pipelines. And so it was important that Birdon was able to procure dredges that match that system. That system has pressures that it needs to abide by. The solids percentage, we can't exceed the solids percentage because you start bogging the line down. If you don't have enough solids going through the system, you're wasting water, which is a very important commodity that we need for this operation. And so there was a trials initially with other dredges to see what the system could handle or what we could build, and what that dredging operation was going to look like. Telemetry is a big thing in this project. We need to understand what we're putting through that line. We need to understand what the pressures are in that system. We need to understand what the solids are going through in that system, so that we can ramp the water up and down to make sure that we're not impacting that system and going to incur some downtime. So there's a lot of innovations and design and engineering firepower that went into the development of this system. Operationally, there's been some challenges as well. What was not expected is the amount of rock and foreign materials to come out of this dam. And so we've had to stop and pivot and assess what's going on and come up with innovative solutions to change that operation, to continue to meet the 5-year deadline that this operation needs to allow mining to come through.
Thank you for that. Just touching on water a little bit more, obviously it's a key element on this project and for the mine itself. Can you delve a little more into just how critical water availability is, not only for this project and dredging, but the operation of the mine itself, along with some of the challenges that go with introducing obviously 2 large powered dredgers into the system, and how I guess the team has worked together to overcome those sorts of water challenges?
Yeah, so water is a significant input into this operation. You've got 2 dredgers operating at 625 litres a second. So that equates to about, with a 24/7 operation, that equates to about 10 to 14 gigalitres per dredge that is consumed each year. So there's a lot of planning that goes in as far as monitoring water across site, across all our dams at Bulga. It's understanding what the dredging plan is for the month ahead and working with Birdon to understand what their plan is, what their downtimes are likely to be in terms of maintenance and other operational challenges, to make sure that we have the water available for that operation. And there's a significant investment that was made in terms of getting water back from the dredging operation. So the tailings that goes out to its destination, and then having the ability to then reclaim that water off the surface. So allowing that tailings to drop out of suspension quickly to enable that water to come back via another network of pumps and pipelines back into the operation. So we're recycling water. It's important that we recycle water because we can't draw it off the river. We don't have that ability to just drain oodles of water out of the river. It's not responsible environmentally. And so it's important that this operation uses its own water, accesses its own water responsibly and efficiently. And so the TRS system that I mentioned that was designed has a function that when the solids aren't there, we have that ability to recycle the tailings back into the dam to try and build up that tailings solids in suspension before we then dredge it, to really use that water as best we can.
Thank you for that one. That's, I think, as in the industry, a lot of people would be very interested in that aspect of it. As the project advances, we know access points shift all the time. Therefore, through physical access, planning is essential. What are some of the risks if access is not maintained? And can you outline the level of planning coordination that is involved between Birdon and Glencore and obviously the mining fleet and works to ensure access is suitably maintained, including the level of mining interactions that are needed to be considered in this process?
Yeah, both Bulga and Birdon, we have weekly meetings and monthly meetings to obviously discuss how the operation is going, but also to look ahead and see where the operation is going. You know, as I mentioned, the mining operation is mining embankments as the dredging goes deeper and deeper. The excavation from Bulga's mining equipment is also following them, and so there's an extensive planning process involved. You know, Glencore's philosophy on site is no plan, no work. And so it's important that Birdon and Bulga work together to understand each other's operation because they're intrinsically linked in terms of how to be successful together. The operation is well within the mine, so Birdon has to get their people through the mine to their place of operation. And so having an integrated mine plan, an integrated dredging plan that overlaps each other so that we can work together is instrumental. As the dredging operation gets deeper and deeper, you need to continue to provide Birdon or the dredging operation with that access. And so having a mining fleet available and scheduled in advance to understand where that dredging operation is in time, to be able to sequence our excavators and trucks and dozers and equipment to be able to maintain pace with that dredging operation as it gets deeper and deeper to allow them access. At the moment, we're going through a planning process now for a dredge to relocate from one void to another void, right? And that requires a 750-ton mobile crane. That's quite a large crane in a mine to be deployed. That crane is going to sit 3 metres on the edge of a high wall that's 20 metres above a tailings dam. So there's a lot of high-risk activities that are occurring in that dam. There's a lot of fatal hazards that are involved in that task. And so planning is critical to allow a dredge that's 85 tonnes to be lifted out of a tailings dam safely and efficiently, and then be relocated and deployed off another high wall to join the other dredge. So planning is integral at all stages, both at the start of the operation, but also throughout the life of the operation. And you know, it can't be done from just Birdon's perspective, and it can't be done from Glencore's perspective. It certainly needs to be integrated due to the complex nature of what's going on out there.
Thank you. Another challenge that we've experienced is that we understand affects many parties within the mining space, being 24/7 operations, is resourcing and rostering, which requires constant attention. Glencore is highly experienced in this area and have developed systems and processes that ensures not only the sustained success of managing this, but also cultural alignment. What are some of the things that Glencore has been able to pass over to Birdon to assist in the management of this challenging item?
Yeah, look, certainly getting a dredging company and personnel that are used to dredging on coastal environments in rivers to then relocate to a mine inland, an hour inland, is certainly a challenge. To upskill those personnel to be able to operate safely and work in amongst a heavy mining equipment and a mining workforce is certainly no mean feat, and it's certainly a challenge to bring those experienced dredging operators to a mine site to understand mining legislation, how mines operate, the level of scrutiny in terms of what people do, the level of planning that goes on, just interacting with heavy equipment down haul roads and intersections. There's a lot of training and upskilling and onboarding for these personnel, and so it's certainly an opportunity that Birdon has taken on to understand what it's like to operate this integrated in a mine site, to be able to take to potential other opportunities later on in terms of dredging on a mine site. Rostering has been a challenge. Obviously, working 2 weeks on or 3 weeks on and 1 week off is not the norm in the coal mining industry, at least in the Hunter Valley in New South Wales. And so that's been another challenge that Birdon has had to adapt to. Certainly in the early days, there was some operators that were coming in from afar, fly in, fly out, or drive in, drive out from significant distances. And certainly that was a challenge on our fatigue management procedures. And as the operation's gone on, they've adapted to a more local workforce and trained them and upskilled them. And so that's certainly maintaining their people in this operation. It is a fixed term operation, so you've got to upskill, you've got to be able to give them the opportunities to want to stay in an operation that does have a finite timeline. And so certainly that's been a challenge for Birdon, that they've taken that on board. I've mentioned the legislation and procedures. There are a lot of procedures in a mine site, and so they've taken a lot of that safety process safety on board as well into their operation, which they can now deploy to their other operations and future operations as well. You know, having procedures for nearly everything that you do out there. Again, I go back to no plan, no work. So there's been a lot of safe work procedures that Birdon have had to develop for every little task. And if there isn't one that's developed, you know, they go about doing a personal risk assessment to then develop a process safety initiative for their operation. So there's been a lot of procedures developed over the last 3 years and continue to be developed as we see gaps in certain tasks out there. So certainly there's been some good learnings for Birdon, but there's also been learnings for Bulga too in terms of what is a dredging operation of this complexity. We've done some dredging operations in other mine sites across Glencore, but this one is certainly a 5-year operation. 30 million cubes of tailings to be relocated is no mean feat, and so Glencore's definitely learned a lot for future dredging operations as well.
Yeah, we've certainly been able to propel a lot of our systems into the future, so couldn't agree more with you on that one. We all know that mining is about production and performance metrics, not just production, but also ESG and safety, which are all equally as important as the other. Can you go through some key performance metrics for the project, highlighting current status and some key achievements?
Yeah, the obvious ones being production metrics or KPIs. So in certain zones of the dam, as in the upper zones of the dam, the tailings is lighter and in suspension more. So you've got high productivity rates in those areas, and as you get deeper, the tailings is more consolidated, and so the rates are decreased accordingly. And so we've got those production metrics. We've got operating or availability metrics, operating time, but certainly you've got health and safety impacts metrics. Sorry, we want to have a safe project. A safe project allows you to bring that production on board, and so managing safety, making sure that we've got the right processes in place to keep those dredging operators safe and interacting with the mining environment. So so there's metrics in terms of safety and but of course environmental performance as well. As I said, water is a key commodity for this operation, and so managing water responsibly is important. But also just environmental constraints. The mining industry in the Hunter Valley is surrounded by communities, and so being responsible in environmental compliance is very important. And certainly Birdon operate in the community. They come to and from Bulga, obviously. They interact with contractors around site and the community, and so they're driving vehicles with Birdon badges all over them, and so they need to be responsible in how they access Bulga in amongst the community. And so there's been no issues to date with regarding environmental and community interactions and compliance, which is really good.
Well, thank you for taking the time to answer the questions, Andrew. I think we've been able to give everyone here a valuable insight into our project and what it takes to undertake a project like this on a mine site. In closing, some key takeaways for the industry when looking at a project like this. This is a replicable, scalable model when using the right contractor and client team. Early contractor-client collaboration equals reduced project risk. Water access must shape engineering decisions from day one. Minimise potential risks of tailings relocation with the right planning. And operational efficiency can be achieved through engineering, primarily through access and cut planning, and through the strategic procurement of workforce. Thank you, Andrew, for coming, and thanks for having us, everyone. Cheers.
Thanks, Justin. Thanks.